Beulah land. That's going to be a day, right? Amen. First of all, I really need to apologize to this church. Brother was singing I Fly Away a while ago, and I heard this voice. I was like, man, somebody can't sing. And, it kind of echoed and squeaked a little bit, and I stopped, and I kind of looked around and didn't hear it anymore, and then started singing, and I was like, man, something just horrible. I looked down, my mic was on. So I heard myself, and it didn't work out too good for me. So I apologize, guys. That joyful noise lifting up to the Lord just don't always apply to Chad, okay? My name's Chad Williams. I'm from Knoxville, Tennessee. I'm a huge Vol fan. I got to come down and see the Grove yesterday and just see my team just get smacked around for 3 quarters. But I'm good with it. I'm good with it because I know one day, if the Lord don't come back within the next 50 years, we'll win again. I really believe that. I really believe it. I'm a little lost today. I'm without my wife. She's always sitting right here, and she's always next to me, and I always can look down, and she's always supporting me and everything. And this weekend she didn't get to come. She's home with her. We got a 15-month-old baby girl, and she's home with her. And so I'm a little bit lost. My collar might be up because she's always the one that's fixing me up before I get on stage, and she's taking care of me. But Miss Dally did a good job. I got to stay with Miss Dally and her brother this weekend, and they have just been super to me. Good people. You guys are lucky to have her in this church. Just a wonderful, wonderful lady. Got to spend a little time with the pastor this morning. Tell me that 50-something new members at this church since December. Wow. 50-something new members, 40-something baptisms. Wow. What are you guys doing? Huh? That's good stuff. You need to be saying amen for that. You need to be clapping. That's 50-something people. 50-something, that's just awesome. We go to churches. We come home 2 months out of the year, 2.5 months out of the year. We're living in Honduras, and we come back, and we do fundraising and stuff. And we'll go to churches. We went to church last year. I brought Nikki came in. She was carrying Josie. She was just a few months old, and we sat down, and this guy come up to me, and he shook my hand. He said, man, we haven't had one of those in our church in years. And I said, white guy? Because I was one of the few white guys in the church. So I said, a white guy? And he said, no, a baby. But I think he said 7 years since a baby has been in that church. 7 years. That's sad, guys. That's sad. And when I hear you say, 40-something baptisms, man, God's working. God's working. That's just awesome. That is awesome. That's awesome. A little background about myself. I've been a member of a Southern Baptist church all my life. My father, he's a deacon in the church. My mother, she taught Sunday school in the church. I got saved when I was 6.5 years old in Bible school because I raised my hand because the guy told me, you say this prayer and you're going to get to heaven and you're never going to have to worry about anything. And I was like, all right, I'm in, And I had no idea what I was doing, but I played that game and I went right along with it. And just went through church, and I'm kind of the guy that when I heard the Missionary was coming to town, I hit that door quick because missionaries are boring people, are they not? I mean, you think about it. Missionaries are boring people. They come in the church, they show these slides about, all these people in the far country, and it's just not always very entertaining. So I was always out when I heard a missionary was coming. So I told Brother West, I said, make sure you not put it in the bulletin that a missionary's coming because everybody be gone. But anyway, I played church, guys. I played church for years and years and years and years. And I was the number one player. I was a star player on our team. I come to church on Sunday mornings. Didn't have no choice because Mom and Dad made me. Come to church on Sunday night. And I was at church on Wednesdays. How many people does that here? A lot of people, probably. A lot of people does that because that's what we're supposed to do. That's what we've been taught. We're supposed to do that. My Bible stayed in the car because it's a whole lot easier to remember to get it out of the car than it was to get it out of the house when you go to church. When I got home, I'd watch those TV shows that probably ain't the best TV shows to watch. When I was in high school, we'd go on these youth retreats, and you better not, these youth right here, do not listen to what I'm saying right now. I would go on these youth retreats. Now remember, my daddy's a deacon, my mom's a Sunday school teacher, and I was the rebel child. I would take little whiskey jars with us. You doing the same thing, aren't you? He's laughing right here. You got to watch him. I was the rebel. They was people in my group. I was influenced. We was watching movies we shouldn't be watching. But remember, I'm the deacon's boy. I'm at church 3 days a week, I'm doing all the things that I'm not supposed to be doing. But I got saved when I was 6 years old. And that guy who led us to the Lord told me, no matter what I did, I would never have to worry about anything. No matter what I did. And I just didn't comprehend the other stuff he was telling me to do. For the first 30 years of my life, I was living for the devil. I'm 39 years old. 39 years old. I'm going to be 40 here soon. I was living for the devil. I met my wife 13 years ago. She's the best thing that ever happened to me. Best thing by far. On our first date, she said, "Chad, are you a Christian?" And it just blew me away because I didn't date girls like that. And I said, "Yeah, I'm a Christian." 6 weeks later, she asked me another question. "Chad, are you a Christian?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm a Christian." She said, "It's about time for you to start acting like it then." See, I didn't realize what I was doing because I was in church. I would tithe every now and again. I would do the things that I thought I was supposed to do. But I had to get right with the Lord. I about lost my marriage because I wasn't living to the standard that God wanted me to do, wanted me to live. That's just a little history about myself. I got right. Me and my wife, Nikki, we got right as a couple. We got involved in church for the first time. We was at church one Sunday morning, or let me back up a little bit. We was at church on a Saturday. We had this car show. Anybody go to car shows? Anybody like old hot rods and stuff? We was at this car show, and this guy came up to me and said, "Hey, Chad," he said, why don't you go to Honduras with us?" And I said, I didn't know where Honduras was. I really didn't know where Honduras. Does everybody know where Honduras is here? It's just south from here. Just keep going south, and you'll go right into it, okay? And I was like, what do y'all do? Is it a vacation type deal? I'm in because I like to travel. Me and my wife, we got married in Jamaica, where we go to Dominican Republic. We go to Mexico on these vacations. We just have these really good time and stuff. And he said, "How about going to Honduras and on a mission trip?" And I was like, I don't have that little stamp in my passport, so I'm in. So me and my wife, we signed up and we went to this mission trip. And the first day we got to Honduras, I looked at my wife and I said, "What in the world did we just do?" Because this ain't like Sandals Resort, okay? This ain't like the cruise ship by any means. You can ask these ladies right back here. It's not a vacation when you go on a mission trip with us. So I was sweating it. The first day I was just sweating, and we was unloading all these boxes, and it's just really, really hard work. And we was getting set up in this little village, and we set up this real big old huge tent, and we're supposed to have service in this tent. And they said that just all kinds of people will be coming to this tent, and so that night at 7 o'clock, church starts at 7 o'clock, because at my church in Tennessee, it starts at 7 o'clock and it ends at 8, no matter what. If there's a revival breaks out, you better get saved before 8 o'clock because we're leaving, right? We got 20 minutes and that's it. That's how it works. So at 7 o'clock, there was 2 or 3 people there. 2 or 3 people here. And I'm like, seriously, our team, we had a big team, and then 2 or 3 people. And I'm like, what's up with this? What in the world that, I took a week off from work, and I paid good money, and I go here, and there's 3 people in the tent, 3 people in this tent. And I'm like, well, this is weird. And about 5 minutes later, I see a couple more people come in. And the Hondurans, they play a band down there, and I'm like, dude, it's 7:05 and you ain't even started yet. You need to get that guitar going, start playing a little bit of music, because we got to get out of here before 8. And so they started playing a little bit of music, and then I saw a couple more people walking in, and then over here on this side of the tent, I saw a couple more people. And about 7:20, they played the first song, and then there's a family of 5 come walking in the back, and a family of 6 or a family of 10 come walking in. About 7:45, there's about 250 people underneath that tent. See, I don't think about one thing. We drive up to church in our nice car. We get out in our nice jackets and our nice dresses, our nice pants. We get out, and I got looking at these people coming in. These women still has their aprons on where they've been working all day, and they're dragging their kids. And you get looking like, well, she don't even have a pair of shoes on. And she's coming in here. And this man, he's coming from the field where he's been cutting sugar cane all day long, or he's been wrestling with his cattle all day long. He's carrying his machete, and he's got sweat stains all down him. And they walked, because they heard this noise, and they heard this rumor about this group of North Americans coming down that's going to give them some free medicine and free medical care. And they want to see what it's all about. We're kind of like a circus when we come to town. They all want to see what it's about. And I got looking at them. And it's about 7:45 they started singing. Now, you remember, we're supposed to start at 7, because us Baptists, we're on time. So it's about 7:45 they started singing their first song. And all of a sudden, this woman right over here, and I think she's in the right side, she lifted her hands up. And I'm like, honey, you got a question? Thank you. And then this other woman lifted her hands up. And this man lifted his hands up. And I'm like, what are they doing? Because I haven't seen that before. Remember, I've been in church for 30-something years. And I love my church. I love being a Southern Baptist. I love it. I think that we're on the right track. But I think there's the things we got to work on. But they start to worship. Like, what are you worshiping for? What is that? You don't have nothing to be. Why are you worshiping? Look at you, honey. You don't even have a nice dress on. You got dirt all over. You got dirt up here on your legs. Why are you worshiping for? Why are you so happy? And then it clicked on me. It just clicked. I said, this lady, she's probably in her 70s. And she's worshiping this God, the same God in Honduras, which is the same God in Tennessee, which is the same God in Africa, which is the same God in Russia. She's worshiping this God. She has it, and she has nothing, but she has the main thing. And I'm not bragging when I say this. I'm not bragging. I was making 6 digits, and I thought I was on the top of this world, and I had nothing. I had nothing, Pastor. She had it. She had it going on. She was praising her God. And tears was coming down. And I'm like, and I looked at my wife. This is the first night, 2006. First night. And I looked at my wife. And she started crying. And something came across me. I started crying. I don't cry. My dad did not raise me to cry. Me and my brother, we don't cry. That's not us. But for some reason, something was moving inside of me, because I was looking at these people, and I realized I don't have what they have. And why do I not have that for? And that first night, it just changed us. In 2006, it changed the way I felt. Okay, guys, I've been in church, again, all my life. But I didn't know anything. I didn't know anything. I remember these stories of, Noah's Ark and just, all the basic stories I learned in Sunday school, but I didn't really know it. It wasn't here. It wasn't here. So it all started changing in my life, in my wife's life. So we started getting serious. We started. I don't know if y'all know what this is or not, but this book here, and I don't mean it lightly. This is a good book. I mean, there's some good stuff in here. Even in the Old Testament, there's some good stuff there, right? And I just started reading, I remember I fell in love with 1st and 2nd Samuel. There's some good stuff in there. And I just kept reading. And I kept reading and I learning and I was just falling in love and falling in love and falling in love with everything. And for some reason, my life started to change. For some reason, when me and my wife, when we did our paycheck, we wanted to start giving. We started tithing to the church. We started, and that wasn't enough for us. And then we started giving to other people. And then we started taking other mission trips. And we just, what we was doing, it never seemed to be enough, though. We just kept going, and we kept going, and we kept going. And it just wasn't enough. So I was struggling really bad. Like, God, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to do? Because, first of all, I'm with the Baptist Medical Dental Mission International. Okay, get that. Baptist Medical Dental Mission International. Okay, I was going on these trips with them, and I was talking to the missionaries, and everybody knew that God was calling me to the mission field, but me. Everybody knew it but me, that God was calling my wife and myself to the mission field. But I had a big problem because, first of all, I'm not a doctor, so the medical thing out. I'm not a dentist. Well, the dental thing's out. I'm not a preacher, so the evangelism part was out because the only people that can evangelize to people are preachers, right? Nobody else can evangelize but preachers. Thank you. Stick with me, guys, okay? So what do I do? People comes up to me all the time. They say, "So you're a doctor? You're with the Baptist Medical?" No, I'm not a doctor. So you're a dentist? No, I'm not a dentist. So you're a pastor? No. Well, what are you? I'm an auctioneer, guys. I'm an auctioneer. I talk fast sometimes. So if God can use an East Tennessee redneck auctioneer to go out and spread his word, he can use you. He can use you. He can use you. There's no age limit. From the time you talk, when you look at a little 15-month-old girl closing her fingers up and saying, "God, thank you for mama, daddy, and hot dogs." They're using you, right? Up until the time you go on, God can use you. So I was struggling with being an auctioneer. I didn't know a lot about the Bible and all these other obstacles, but God called us. And I struggled. And I was talking with my wife a little bit, but not really a lot. And I was in the shower one night, guys. Listen to this. I was in the shower, and I could almost hear God's voice saying, "You got to go." And I said, "I'll go, God. But you're going to have to, you're going to have to reach my family and my wife and everything too." So I get out of the shower. I get into bed. Nikki's already in bed. She sits up in the bed. And this is the exact same word she said, or the exact words she said after I got in bed. She sits up, and this is the words that every guy hates. Every married man hates this. She says, "We need to talk." There's no married man that wants to hear his wife say, "We need to talk." Amen. That's right. I should have had amens all over this house, and I didn't get a one, just one right here. So we need to talk. And I was like, oh, mercy, what did I do? And she sits up, and she has tears coming out of her eyes. And she says, I think we need to go to Honduras as missionaries. Now, this is the very same night, 10 minutes before, God told me he called us right then and there at the same time. God does not call one person on the mission field if you're married. He calls two. He don't call one person to be a pastor. He calls two. It don't work. Without your spouse, it will not work. He calls two if you're married to do whatever you got to do. Anyway, we went on the field. It took a long process, but now we're serving in Honduras. And I've been there for 5 years now, and I still struggle with things. I come home every October, November, some parts of December, and we raise funds to go and stuff, go back on the field for the following year. But last year when I come back, they say your 5th year, it's kind of the average life of a missionary is about 2.5 to 3 years. That's it. Just because of, being away from families and all kinds of stuff. But every year I find it's a little harder to go back. It's because you get back into the States and you get back to riding in nice cars. You get back to good food. You look at me, but you get back into life again. But last year when I come back, something else happened. I met about 5 or 6 different people in my hometown that just out of the blue that I was able to share with. I met a guy at a pawn shop. I never go to pawn shops, but I was looking for a tool to take back with me. And I stop in, and I go in, and there that DeWalt set was in the back. It's a brand new set. It probably was stolen from my uncle's house or something, but it was sitting in the back, and I go there and I ask him about it, and of course it was half price, and he said, what do you do, buddy? And I knew right then, that's why I stopped in there, because I was able to share. And I was able to talk to him. He said, what do you do? And I said, well, actually, I'm a missionary. And I could just see him roll his eyes in Honduras. It's like, oh, Lord. He said, well, don't you think that there's people here that needs to hear the Lord? And I said, they are, sir, and I'm sure you're telling them about the Lord right now, right? I'm sure, because that's the attitude that we have. I had that attitude before. Are they not people here that needs to hear the Lord? Sure they are. Sure they are. And you need to get out there and tell them about the Lord. You need to live it in front of them. You need to. But I was able to share with him, and it just kept on. All the whole time I was there, the Lord just kept pushing people in front of me, just pushing people in front of me. And I was like, I was telling my wife, I said, honey, I've been able to share more than 2 months here in the States than I have in Honduras all year long on a personal level. So a lot of times, these ladies can tell you, I'm so busy making sure all the teams are doing what they're supposed to be doing. I don't have a lot of time as one-on-one to witness, and that's what I like to do. I love to evangelize. I love to sit down and just tell you my story and listen to you. I love to do that. And it was almost hard for me to go back because I'm jealous. I'm jealous that you guys here has an opportunity to share that I don't have as a missionary in Honduras, because first of all, it's your native language. Listen to me. I can't speak very good English, and I'm trying to talk in Spanish, okay? So, I learned one thing in language school, that I was illiterate in 2 languages. Okay, that's what I learned. But let me share with you just a little bit here. And I want to break it down. And I'm going to be really quick, okay? And I know that the pastor said I had 1.5 hours to share, but I'm going to think I can get it in about 1 hour and 15 minutes today if I work real hard at it, okay? But turn with me to Romans 10 if you don't care. And this is just one of my favorite. Romans 10, and I'm going to start in verse 9. I'm reading out of the King James today, so it might differ a little bit from some of your other guys' stuff, but Romans 10, I'm going to read 9 through 15. It says, that if thou shalt confess with thy mouth the Lord Jesus, and shalt believe in thy heart that God hath raised him from the dead, thou shalt be saved. That's one of the most famous verses in the Bible, is Romans 10:9. Everybody learned that. For with the heart man believeth unto righteousness, and with the mouth confession is made unto salvation. For the scripture saith, whosoever believeth on him shall not be ashamed. That's a big one there. That shall not be ashamed. If you believe him, you shall not be ashamed. For there is no difference between the Jew and the Greek. Sometimes I like to say there's no difference between the North American or the South American or the Russian or the Indian or whatever. There's no difference between the Jew and the Greek, for the same Lord over all is rich unto all that call upon him. For whosoever shall call upon the name of the Lord shall be saved. It's the second time in those 4 verses that he said that. And in 14, this is a big one. How then shall they call on him who have not believed? And how shall they believe in him of whom they have not heard? And how shall they hear without a preacher? And how shall they preach except they be sent? As it is written, how beautiful are the feet of them that preach the gospel of peace and bring glad tidings of good things. How beautiful are the feet of the people who preach the gospel. Listen to me. You can ask my wife. My feet is not beautiful, okay? But in God's eyes it is. And my feet is no different than your feet, no different than your feet, and no different than your feet. It's no more my job because I'm a missionary. You know, when you're a missionary or you're a pastor, people hold you on a little bit higher standards because, you know, you're getting paid to go out and share the gospel. Listen to me. If you're a Christian, it is your job to share the gospel. No matter if you're in Oxford, Mississippi, if you're in Knoxville, Tennessee, or if you're in Tegucigalpa, Honduras, it's your job, if you're a Christian, to share the gospel. Amen? Amen? That's not very loud, guys. It's our job to go out and share the gospel. I heard a comment 2 years ago. And this pastor, he got up on stage and he went like this right here. He went, and he was silent. He was silent. He hadn't commented. He just got up on stage when he first got up. That's what he did. And he was walking back and forth. And he's snapping his fingers. And everybody kind of thought he was trying to get into a beat or something. But he kept snapping his fingers. He said, listen to me. Every 9 seconds, somebody dies and goes to hell. Somebody else has died and gone to hell. Now, if you're a Christian, if you're a true, born-again, Bible-loving, Jesus freak, that ought to break your hearts. For 2 years, that's been on my mind. For 2 years. Now, because what's on my mind? Because I wasted 30 years, Pastor. Wasted 30 years of my life. Kids, do not waste that much of your life because your friends, your families, the people you work with, they are dying and they're going to hell because we are scared to preach the gospel. We depend on the church to preach the gospel. We depend on the pastor. We depend on the Sunday school teachers. We depend on the deacons because that's what they're there to do. We're here. We're sitting on the pews. That's our job. We give a little tithe and we think it's all okay. Listen to me. Your family is going to die and go to hell. Everybody here knows somebody, either a family member or a friend or a colleague or something who is lost and we're sitting by and they're going to die and go to hell and we're doing nothing about it. I did it. I'm preaching to Chad Williams right here, right now, today. Okay? We have to get up off the pews. We have to Show them Jesus. You don't have to present them the gospel. You show them Jesus through your life every day. You make them say, man, I want what Dally has. I want what Brad has. I want that. What's going on? Why are you so happy all the time for? Why? Why are you so happy? Tell me a little bit. Something's going on here. It's our job. Everybody looks around and we look at the states, and the states is just in a horrible condition right now, and we blame it on politics, and a lot to blame. I mean, Republicans, Democrats, Independents, they're all in the same boat. They're after one thing, and that's power and money and everything, but we can't blame it on politics. We've got to blame it on the church, because we've sit around here long enough. The church in the United States has sit around in our pews not doing anything about it, and that's the reason that the states is in the situation. We have to get up off the pews, and we have to get out and show Jesus Christ to this world, because if we don't do it, who is? Who is? Nobody. Nobody's going to do it. And that's my challenge today. That's my challenge. I was coming in here, and I told Wesley earlier this week, I said, I've got a slideshow. I want to talk about my ministry. And I want to talk about, we have a feeding program and just all kinds of stuff we're doing in Honduras. And the Lord changed my mind. He laid it on me. And I don't know why. And it's for somebody here. I don't know who it's for. But hopefully today, something I said is going to challenge you to get up and get to work. We don't have much time. I'm going to be 40 years old. I cannot believe I'm going to be 40 years old. I mean, it seems like yesterday. My dad just turned 70. I remember having the 40th birthday party for my dad. And I remember all your life, kids, people are going to say, man, it's just in a blink of an eye, you're going to be old. In a blink of an eye, you're going to be old. And you don't believe it. You do not believe it. Well, I'm telling you, in the blink of an eye, you're going to be 40 years old. I mean, I don't know where the time went. We don't have much time. Some of us don't have as much time as others have. So let's work. Let's get excited about the God. Let's don't be the people that people say, if this is what Christianity's about, I don't want to have no part of it. I've been that person. I've been there. I've strayed so many people away. Let's don't do that no more. Let's get up. Let's get excited. Let's take this Bible out. Let's share it with, I challenge everybody. If I come back here next year, and this is my challenge I'm leaving with you today, I hope everybody can say, there's probably 100 people here today, 70 to 100 people. I hope everybody can say they led one person, just one person. Let me lead one person to Christ this year. And if I come back next year, I don't know if I will be back. You might not want me back next year. I'm going to ask you, and I do this every church I go back to. I ask you, I say, okay, first thing, how many people led anybody to Christ this year? I want to see hands raised. And hopefully there'll be hands all over this church. Hopefully this church will be full when it comes back. Just look around. Look at these seats. Look at these seats. Just look at all the empty seats here. There's no reason for it. I was at the Grove last night. There's 62,000 people there. I tell you what, you don't have to go to Honduras. You don't have to go to Africa. You don't have to go to Haiti to be a missionary. A lot of people think you do. Saturdays at the Grove, right there's your mission field, guys. I had a wonderful time yesterday. I went into a little tailgate party. I got to meet with some of my missionary friends down there. Went into a tailgate party. This guy comes up to me, said, hey, welcome to the Grove. You're going down today, and a couple other words. He said, now what do you do? After he let a few cuss words out. And I said, well, I'm glad you asked. I'm a missionary down in Honduras. And he just melted because he lets the F-bomb fly right there in front of me. And yeah, by the way, I'm a missionary. And let's talk about Jesus a little bit, And he just melted right there, man. You're in a college town. This is opportunity for this church to get out and just minister to the people. You ain't got to go nowhere but right here. And then you can spread on out to Mississippi. I tell everybody first, you got to start. When you're talking about missions, you got to start in your church first. You got to start at your hometown. And then you can branch out. Branch on out to Mississippi. Then branch on out to the States. Then get your overseas mission. Start here. Man, the mission field right here, right now. Wow. Kids, man, in your high schools, in the colleges. It's wide open, brother. It's wide open. Guys at work, ladies at work, or at home. That's our mission field. That's our mission field. And I just want to challenge you with that. I'm getting ready to quit right now. I want to challenge you. Get out and tell people about Christ, because if you don't, nobody else will. Let me pray real quick. Dear Heavenly Father God, I just thank you so much for allowing me to come here and speak at this church, Lord. Lord, I'm so excited as I talked to the preacher and I heard